Page 344. Page 345. Page 346. Page 347. Page 348. Page 349. Page 350. Announcement. The Senate President, Your Excellency, caucus meeting. All PDP Senate caucus members are cordially invited to our caucus meeting holding this evening as follows. Date 13th November 2019. Another date, but I will refer to it as time, 6 p.m. prompt, venue, house number 5, house 5A, number 7, Ghana Street, Maitama, Abuja. Very truly yours, Senator Enyenaya Abaribe, distinguished minority leader, signed. Okay, in the spirit of cooperation, brotherhood, and understanding, APC senators can go and dominate the meeting. Birthday announcement. Today, 13th November, is the birthday of our distinguished colleague, Senator Ibrahim Hassan Hadeja. Our distinguished colleague, we in the Senate wish you a very happy birthday, long life, prosperity, and many more years of service to our fatherland. And of course, from my senatorial district as your neighbor, we also wish you everything that this Senate wishes you. Congratulations, happy birthday. I wish to acknowledge the presence of staff and students of Maryland Educational Services, Jikoi, Abuja, who are here in the gallery to observe the Senate proceedings. You are welcome. We wish you a very fruitful observation of our proceedings today. You may sit down. Thank you. I also wish to acknowledge the presence of staff and students of Kefi Premier Academy, Kefi, Nasarawa State, who are also here in the gallery to observe the Senate proceedings. You are welcome. We wish you very fruitful observation of our proceedings today. You may sit down, please. Petitions? Petition. Distinguished Professor Senator Sandy Ono, petition.
Mr. President, thank you. I am in possession of a petition from one of my constituents, Mr. Ewa, who is wrongfully detained in a correctional facility in India on allegations of an invalid visa. He stoutly rejects it, says it is not true, and insists that the Senate investigates so he can return back home to lead a normal life. Thank you, Mr. President.
Where is he? Where is he detained? Clerk.
Diplomatic.
Yeah.
Okay. I hope he's not seeking any judicial remedy or intervention, because if he is, we will not be able to intervene. But if he is not, then you can lay the petition. Is he or is not? All right, you can lay the petition. The petition is referred to the Senate Committee on Public Petition and Ethics, Privileges and Public Petitions, and you bring it back in 2 weeks. And let me advise that the committee should invite the Foreign Affairs to find out what they are doing about this in the process of trying to find a solution to it. Distinguished Senator Samegu, petition.
Thank you, Mr. Senate President. Thank you, Mr. President. Sam Egu is my name. I represent Ebonyi North Senatorial District. Mr. President, I have a petition against the Nigerian Army for wrongful dismissal and appeal for reinstatement by Sunday Ume, one of my constituents. If you permit me, Mr. President, I'll come and lay the petition.
Okay, is he seeking a judicial remedy? Okay, you can lay the petition. The petition is referred to Committee on Ethics, Privileges and Public Petitions to report in 2 weeks. Senator Chukwuka Utazi, petitions.
Thank you, Mr. President. Distinguished colleagues, I am Senator Chukwuka Utazi. I represent the good people of Enugu North Senatorial District of Enugu State. Mr. President, I bring forward here this morning a petition by Mr. Eyeda Hyacinth Ikechukwu from Olido in Enugu Ezike, local government area. Part of my own local government that constitutes my constituency. Is a staff. He was a staff of Nigeria National Identity Management Commission, and was given permission to do study leave. He finished study leave and came back and...
Just go ahead and tell us what happened.
He has been pleading with these people that they permitted him to go for study leave. And after he had done that, they refused to admit him back. So what is the Senate to look into this matter, call the NMISC to talk with them and with a view to bringing him back to his duty post.
Is he seeking any judicial remedy? Has he gone to court? Okay, you can lay the petition. Thank you very much. The petition is referred to the Senate Committee on Ethics, Privileges and Public Petition to report in 2 weeks. Any petitions? Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, my highly respected and distinguished colleagues, the first business of the day is the presentation of a bill standing in the name of distinguished Senator Stephanus Dungan on 1999 Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria Alteration Bill 2019. Mr. President, you may wish to invite the Clerk of the Senate to read the short title of the bill.
Clerk of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, 1999 Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, Alteration Bill 2019, SB 75, first reading. 1999 Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, Alteration Bill 2019, SB 75, first reading taken. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, my highly respected and distinguished colleagues, the second business of the day is the presentation of a bill standing in the name of distinguished Senator Betty Apiak on the Criminal Code Cap C38 Laws of the Federal Republic of Nigeria 2004 Bill 2019. Mr. President, you may wish to invite the Clerk of the Senate to read the short title of the bill.
Clerk of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, Criminal Code Cap C38 LFM 2004 Amendment Bill 2019 SB 92 first reading.
Criminal Code Cap C38 LFN 2004 Amendment Bill 2019 SB 92 first reading taken. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, my highly respected and distinguished colleagues, the third business of the day is the presentation of a bill in the name of distinguished Senator Gashon Bassey on the Federal College of Forestry Technology and Research, Akwankpa, Establishment, etc. Bill 2019. Mr. President, you may wish to invite the Clerk of the Senate to read the short title of the bill.
Clerk of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, Federal College of Forestry Technology and Research, Akampa, Establishment, etc. Bill 2019, SB 99, first reading.
Federal College of Forestry Technology and Research, Akampa, Establishment, etc. Bill 2019, SB 99, first reading taken. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, my highly respected and distinguished colleagues, the fourth business of the day is the presentation of a bill standing in the name of distinguished Senator Uche Lilian Ekwonife on Public Procurement Act 2007 Amendment Bill 2019. Mr. President, you may wish to invite the Clerk of the Senate to read the short title of the bill.
Clerk of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, Public Procurement Act 2007 Amendment Bill 2019, SB 109, first reading.
Public Procurement Act 2007 Amendment Bill 2019, SB 109, first reading taken. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, my highly respected distinguished colleagues, the fifth business of the day is the presentation of a bill standing in the name of distinguished Senator Elaji Abdullahi Sankara of the Public Procurement Act 2007 Amendment Bill 2019. Mr. President, you may wish to invite the Clerk of the Senate to read the short title of the bill.
Clerk of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, Public Procurement Act 2007 Amendment Bill 2019, SB 158, first reading.
Public Procurement Act 2007 Amendment Bill 2019, SB 158, first reading taken. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, my highly respected and distinguished colleagues, the sixth business of the day is the presentation of a bill standing in the name of distinguished Senator Mohammed Sani Musa on the National Land Drainage Bill 2019. Mr. President, you may wish to invite the Clerk of the Senate to read the short title of the bill.
Clerk of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, National Land Drainage Bill 2019, SB 135, first reading.
National Land Drainage Bill 2019, SB 135, first reading taken. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, the seventh business of the day is the presentation of a bill standing in the name of Senator Ibikule Amosu on the Electronic Transaction Bill 2019. Mr. President, you may wish to invite the Clerk of the Senate to read the short title of the bill.
Clerk of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, Electronic Transactions Bill 2019, SB 155, first reading.
Electronic Transactions Bill 2019, SB 155, first reading taken. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, my highly respected and distinguished colleagues, the eighth business of the day is the presentation of a bill standing in the name of distinguished Senator Muhammad Ali Ndume on the Federal College of Education, Marama, Borno State Establishment, etc. Bill 2019. Mr. President, you may wish to invite the Clerk of the Senate to read the short title of the bill.
Clerk of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, Federal College of Education, Marama, Borno State, Establishment, etc. Bill 2019, SB 156, first reading.
Federal College of Education, Marama, Borno State Establishment, etc. Bill 2019, SB 156, first reading taken. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, my highly respected and distinguished colleagues, the ninth business of the day is the presentation of a bill standing in the name of distinguished Senator Abdul Fattah Buhari on the Federal University of Agriculture and Technology, Okeogun, Oyo State Establishment, etc. Bill 2019. Mr. President, you may wish to invite the Clerk of the Senate to read the short title of the bill.
Clerk of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, Federal University of Agriculture and Technology, Okeogun, Oyo State, Establishment Extra Bill 2019, SB 159, first reading.
Federal University of Agriculture and Technology, Okeogun, Oyo State Establishment Extra Bill 2019, SB 159, first reading taken. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, my highly respected and distinguished colleagues, the 10th business of the day is the presentation of a bill standing in the name of distinguished Senator Suleiman Abdullahi Kwari on Federal College of Crop Science and Food Technology, Lere, Kaduna State, Establishment, etc. Bill 2019. Mr. President, you may wish to invite the Clerk of the Senate to read the short title of the bill.
Clerk of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, Federal College of Crop Science and Food Technology, Lere, Kaduna State, Establishment, etc. Bill 2019, SB 160, first reading.
Federal College of Crop Science and Food Technology, Lere, Kaduna State Establishment, etc. Bill 2019, SB 160, first reading taken. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, my highly respected and distinguished colleagues, the 11th business of the day is the presentation of a bill standing in the name of distinguished Senator Stella Adaeze Odwa on the Southeast Development Commission Establishment, etc. Bill 2019. Mr. President, you may wish to invite the Clerk of the Senate to read the short title of the bill.
Clerk of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, Southeast Development Commission Establishment, etc. Bill 2019, SB 161, first reading.
Southeast Development Commission Establishment, etc. Bill 2019, SB 161, first reading taken. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, my highly respected and distinguished colleagues, the 12th business of the day is the presentation and consideration of the report of the Committee on Local and Foreign Debts on the issuance of 10.069 billion promissory note program to Kogi State Government and about issuance to settle inherited local debts and contractual obligations of the Federal Government refund to states for projects executed on behalf of the Federal Government. Mr. President, you may wish to invite Senator Odia Clifford, Chairman of the committee, to move the motion for the Senate to receive and consider the report.
Senator Clifford Odia.
Mr. President, my very distinguished colleagues, I'm Senator Clifford Akimemona Odia, representing Edo Central Senatorial District. I rise to move the motion that the Senate do receive and consider the report of the Committee on Local and Foreign Debt on the issuance of 10 billion and 69 million promissory note program to Kogi government and a bond issuance to settle inherited local debt and contractual obligations of the federal government refund to states for projects executed on behalf of the federal government. I so move.
Senator Ibrahim Yahya Olorogbe.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I rise to second the motion as moved by my colleagues and my chairman, distinguished Senator Clifford Odia, that this Senate do receive the report of the local and foreign debt on the promissory note of 10.069 to Kogi State. I so second.
Those in favor that we receive the report, we receive and consider the report, say aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. You can lay your report, please. Point of order, Minority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. My name is Ayin Baribe, and I represent Abia South. Mr. President, I'm coming under Order 1A. Proceedings of this Senate and in all the committees shall be considered according to the standard.
Which order are you?
And why I'm saying this is that what we have in our order paper today is simply to lay the report, not to lay and consider.
Okay, thank you very much, Minority Leader. I had discussion with Senator Clifford Odia, our chairman, Foreign Loans and Debt, and he told me that he would like us to receive and consider. And I have no objection to that. I think we'll be fast-tracking the process. And what the Senate leader did is in conformity with our standing order to review the arrangement or whatever it is that we wanted to do at the beginning, receiving only. In fact, you know that we are very experienced that we can even change fundamentally what is in the order paper. So this is just to fast track the process. But thank you very much for that very insightful. You see, you know, Minority Leader, this enriches our legislative experience because you have brought to the fore something that maybe will benefit all of us, but the leader has leverage on 1B, and therefore we are still in order, but thank you. Thank you very much. So, Senator Odia, please lay the report. Please stop harassing him. You can present your report. Have we all gotten the copies? Okay. It was seconded by Senator Barbe, the minority leader. The motion was seconded by Senator Ibrahim Oluragbe. The minority leader already raised the issue of a point of order, whether we were in order. And of course, he knew very well that we are perfectly in order, but he wanted to educate us. Thank you. Present your report, please.
My President and my very esteemed colleagues, this report is on the issuance of 10 billion 69 million promissory note program to Kogi State government and the board issuance to settle inherited local debts and contractual obligations of the federal government refund to states for projects executed on behalf of the federal government. Introduction. The Senate, at its sitting on Tuesday, 15th October 2019, considered the request of Mr. President, Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces of the Federal Republic of Nigeria on the establishment of a promissory note program and the board issuance to settle local debts and contractual obligations of the federal government, refund to state projects executed on behalf of the federal government, and refer same to the committee for further legislative action. The membership of the committee is as stated there with my humble self as the chairman. The background. The promissory note program and board issuance is meant to clear unpaid debt which the federal government is indebted to various sectors of the economy. The outstanding claims and liabilities which form components of the unpaid debt are both recurrent and capital expenditures. As regards Kogi State, it is in capital expenditure, which has to do with refund to the state government monies spent for the execution of federal government projects in the state. The methods were adopted. 1. The following key government functionaries were invited to brief the committee in the course of its work. 1. Permanent Secretary, Federal Ministry of Finance. 2. Permanent Secretary, Federal Ministry of Works and Housing. 3. The Director of General Debt Management Office. 4. The Honorable Minister of Finance, Kogi State. 5. Honorable Commissioner of Works, Kogi State. And 6. Head Department, Debt Management Department, Kogi State. 2. The committee also assessed and compared the following submissions made by the Ministry of Finance, documents from Bureau of Public Procurement and Kogi State government. Copies of approvals by the federal government to the Ministry of Works and Housing for the execution of highway projects in the state. 3. Copies of contract agreement between the state government and the contractors that handle the road projects. Copies of certificate of completion of each phase of the road projects. Finally, evidence of payment by Kogi State government to the contractors. The third item, the committee also undertook an oversight visit to Kogi State to assess the projects and ascertain that it meets required standards by the Federal Ministry of Works. The projects inspected are 1. Reconstruction of Shikatu Udugbo Road. 2. Reconstruction of Gananja Ajakuto Road. 3. Reconstruction of Ida Onye Lega Road. And 4. Realization of Lokoja Ganaja Road. Number 5. Reconstruction of 3-span bridge along Shinkatu Udugbo Road. And 4. Reconstruction of 4-span bridge along Shikatu Udugbo Road. And 7. Reconstruction of Eyamoye, Egakun, Ifiolu, Pontun, Ponyan, Dege Road. Our findings. Based on the submissions, interactions, and on the spot assessment of projects, the committee observed as follows. 1, that most of the federal highways mentioned were at a state of disrepair before the intervention of the state government. 2, that the inspections were carried out by the Federal Ministry of Works and Housing on all the federal roads completed by states and ascertained that the quality of work done have met the required standard. 3, that the state government has completed all the projects which it is seeking for a refund. 4, that the state government has paid all contractors that executed the highway projects. And 5, that the Federal Bureau of Procurement have ascertained and certified that due process was followed accordingly. Our humble recommendation. The committee recommends that the Senate do approve a promissory note program and bond issuance in the sum of 10,069 million naira as refund to Kogi government for the projects executed on behalf of federal government. Conclusion. The committee wishes to express its gratitude to the President of the Senate, the leadership, and the entire Senate for the confidence reposed on the committee to carry out the assignment. It is my humble pleasure, therefore, Mr. President and distinguished colleagues, to move that the Senate do approve a promissory note program and bond issuance in the sum of 10,069 million as refund to Kogi State government for the projects executed on behalf of the federal government. I so move.
Senator Barrow Jibril.
Thank you, Mr. President. I am Senator Barrow Jibril. I represent Kano North.
Want to use the money to
Please permit me to commend the Senate Committee on Local and Foreign Debts for the wonderful work it has done in dealing with this very important issue. They did not rely on the papers that were submitted to them, but the submission that was brought before the committee by the Kogi State government. But they decided to go on their own to check these projects, one after the other, to assess these projects. You've done well. Mr. President, also permit me to commend Kogi State government for going all the way to spend its money in implementing these important projects that belong to federal government. On behalf of the federal government. On behalf of the federal government, yes. Mr. President, they've done well as well. They've done well. They've done well. Well done. Mr. President, and I think the proper thing to do, Mr. President, is to quickly pay Kogi State government because they've done something that is good and is commendable. I therefore request, Mr. President, that this promissory note issuance should be approved immediately in order to show other state governments to take a cue from what Kogi State government has done. Mr. President, I so submit.
Senate Minority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. My very distinguished colleagues, I agree with Senator Jibril Barrow that states that have done the work of the federal government should be paid. I agree entirely. But the witch cries in the night and the child dies in the morning. Who does not know that it is that witch? On Saturday, there is going to be an election in this same Kogi state. And money is going to them today.
Distinguished colleagues, please let's listen to the minority leader just like he listened to Senator Barrow. Minority leader, you are very, very well protected.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm always protected inside this chamber. I'm sorry, Mr. President, this is not a joking matter. I agree that they should be paid. What I don't want is misuse of this fund, because it is for the people of Kogi State. And therefore, I have the mandate of the minority to say that this can be waited upon until next week. Because too many state governments also have their papers there, and the speed in which they have decided to pay this one, they haven't paid the other ones. Therefore, we think that...
You can round up now.
We think that this is not the right time. We think that this is a time where the exigencies of the moment may lead this money to be used for other purposes. And therefore, we say, let us delay for only 1 week. After the election on Saturday, then they can get their money. Yes.
All right, distinguished colleagues, please. I'm not going to take any more contributions. Just listen, please. Just listen. Kogi State applied for this in the last Senate with all other states. Just listen, please. And all the states that applied were approved here by the National Senate and paid. You know, no, it's not PDP. Excuse me, please. Minority leader, this witch that you say cried last night, you know, ghost time is always the best. Kogi was not approved at that time. Now, no. Now, we, as a Senate, the 9th Senate, has seen the necessity and is trying to do justice. That we're approving this thing is just a coincidence that there will be elections in Kogi. So there is no, excuse me please, excuse me, we listen to you. Just, no, I don't need information, I've had enough. You see, we have done justice to others, and we have to do justice to Kogi State. It doesn't matter when this justice is coming. This justice has to be done. And I'm sure that when you turn to our colleagues in the minority and said on behalf of them that we shouldn't approve of this, you didn't mean that we shouldn't approve the recommendations of our committee on foreign loan and debt. Therefore, I will put the question, and please, minority leader, I want to hear your voice going for this thing. So I will put the recommendation to vote. The Senate, that the Senate do approve a promissory note program and bond issuance in the sum of 10 billion 69 million naira as refund to Kogi State government for the projects executed on behalf of the federal government of Nigeria. Those in favor say aye. Kai. Apparently everybody has voted for this. Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Point of order, Senator Uche Lillian.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, My name is Senator Chelila Nekunife. I represent Anambra Central and from Anambra State. Mr. President, I'm happy that section... No, our House Senate. I'm happy that...
Which order? Which order, please? Senate. Okay.
Take this one. Take this one.
The Federal Republic of Nigeria shall be a state based on the principles of democracy and social justice. Mr. President, I wanted to raise my point of order before you ruled, but it's not going to take me away from the point I want to.
Distinguished, I didn't hear you. I only heard you after I ruled.
Mr. President, I am not really against the granting of the 10-point-something billion to Kogi State. But I would like to say, Mr. President, that in the ex-Senate, I thank God I was there briefly, and I remember that Enugu State government brought a bill for what they spent on federal roads, amounting to about some billions of naira. The same thing with Anambra, Imo, and all that. And when you want to go to equity, go with clean hands. I believe that all those states should be refunded the money they spent on federal roads. When I was going...
Okay, distinguished. Just listen, please. Just listen. I'm advising you that you listen, please. Because you are not recorded, so you are just talking. You are not recorded. You see, we are dealing with Kogi. Actually, we are finished. If you have requests or your state, Anambra, sorry, or just listen. I would just advise. If there is, and this is a general thing, if there is any other state that has spent its funds on federal government roads, the procedure is to write to the executive for the executive to verify and then approve at the Federal Executive Council and send it here. We are going to entertain any request. So it's not like we isolated others. I mentioned the history of Kogi State because that was what happened. All the states that applied had their requests approved. Only Kogi didn't have. So we have already given Kogi. If you know any state, we don't have any, excuse me. Okay, I have taken note of your order, and I think you need to do more assignments outside to get your request into the Senate or the National Assembly. Thank you. Leader of the Senate.
Thank you, Mr. President. My highly respected and distinguished colleagues, the first order of the day.
Point of order, Senator Emmanuel Okejeff.
Thank you, Mr. President Okejeff. I represent the good people of Benue Northwest. Mr. President, Order 77, Rule 2, if I may read.
Rule 2. Okay, you can read.
Any senator who wishes to move for leave to bring a bill shall give notice of the provisions proposed to be embodied in the bill to the clerk, who shall cause them to be published in 2 successive issues of the official gazette or National Assembly Journal, and shall send a copy of the first of such issues to every senator. I don't know about others, but I don't have any of the bills that are slated for second reading today. And I can't see how I will contribute if I don't have prior knowledge of the issues that are coming on the floor. That should be done. Thank you.
The distinguished Senator Emmanuel Kejef, the clerk has just given me one of the bills that is gazetted. This is, I think, Senator Gabriel Suswam's bill. And I was told that they circulated the bills to our offices. So probably what we need to do is maybe to start giving them here instead of circulating them in the offices. But I've taken note of your order. You are perfectly in order. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, my highly respected and distinguished colleagues, the first order of the day is the second reading of the National Assembly Inauguration Bill 2019. Distinguished senators will recall that the bill was read the first time in this chamber on Wednesday, 25th September 2019. Mr. President, you may wish to invite the distinguished Senator Gabriel Suswam to move the motion for the bill to be read the second time.
Senator Gabriel Suswam.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, my name is Dr. Gabriel Suswam, representing Benue Northeast Senatorial District of Benue State.
Senator Peter Omobishi. Sorry, I didn't hear you.
President, your ruling that the one's motion is in order. Can we continue with this now?
Yeah. No. That, excuse me, okay, I've listened to you. Just give me 1 minute. No, I switched myself on. I didn't switch you off. The point I made was that it was circulated, or the bills were circulated. That was the point. So if some of us didn't get, others did. And that does not nullify the fact that the bills were circulated. But what I've advised them is henceforth, we should rather circulate the bills inside the chamber so that everybody will have his own. And that this process continues. So, distinguished Senator Gabriel Suswam, please go ahead.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, once again, my name is Dr. Gabriel Suswam, representing Benue Northeast Senatorial District of Benue.
Go ahead, please, with the second reading.
This is a bill, as you recall, Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, that was read here for the first time on the 25th of September. Mr. President, colleagues, thank you for your Albert.
Distinguished Senator Suswam, there is a lot of noise. Okay, go ahead.
Mr. President, I want to move that this bill for the inauguration of the National Assembly be read for the second time. I so move, Mr. President. So I'll continue. Okay.
Why do you keep on stopping? Continue with the lead debate.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, thank you for the opportunity to lead the debate on the general principles of the National Assembly Inauguration Bill 2019. You will recall that this bill was read for the first time on Wednesday, 25th September 2019. The objectives of the bill, Mr. President. The primary motivation behind this bill is to, amongst other reasons, ensure a smooth transition of legislative powers from the outing National Assembly to the incoming National Assembly by providing a comprehensive legal framework for managing and coordinating the inauguration and swearing in of newly elected or incoming senators or members-elect of the National Assembly after the dissolution of the outgoing National Assembly by the President in exercise of his powers under Section 64, Sub 3 of the 1999 Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria as amended. Specifically, this bill seeks to entrench institutional memory and ensure clarity and certainty with respect to the day/date for convening and inaugurating the incoming National Assembly. The bill is intended to reinforce the powers of the President to dissolve the outgoing National Assembly and convene the first session of the incoming National Assembly, while at the same time ensuring clarity and certainty regarding the time to exercise this power in order to avoid any future constitutional crisis. Furthermore, the bill stipulates saving and transitional provisions regarding the status of the standing orders of the Senate and House of Representatives of the outgoing National Assembly on the proceeding of the incoming National Assembly. A clear guide on the responsibilities of the clerk to the National Assembly in the transitional legislative powers of the National Assembly is articulated in the bill. The bill also seeks to ensure clarity in terms of first floor activities of the incoming National Assembly on the day of the first session and prevent litigation that may stall the transition process in the National Assembly. Extant legislations and the power of the National Assembly to pass this bill. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, the subject matter of this bill at the moment is regulated by Section 64(3) of the 1999 Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria as amended. Section 64(3) of the Constitution provides, and I quote, "Subject to the provisions of this Constitution, the person elected as President shall have power to issue a proclamation for holding of the first session of the National Assembly immediately after his being sworn in or for his dissolution as provided in this section. It is clear from the above quoted provisions that the powers of the President under Section 64(3) of the Constitution are subject to other provisions of the Constitution, including the provisions vesting legislative powers of the Federation on the National Assembly. Accordingly, by a combined reading of the provisions of Section 64(3) and Section 4(1) to 4 and items 22 and 68, Part 1 of the second schedule to the Constitution, this Senate is vested with the powers to pass this bill. Mr. President, Section 4(1) to 4 gives the National Assembly absolute powers to turn even James Manager into a woman if we so wish. We have absolute powers. That is what that section deals with. Now, it suffices to say that by item 68 of the exclusive legislative part 1 of the second schedule to the 1999 Constitution as amended, the power of the National Assembly to legislate on the inauguration day, date of elected members of the National Assembly is incidental to the exclusive power of the National Assembly to legislate on the elections of members of the National Assembly. You look at item 2 in the first schedule, item 22. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, the gradual progression and change in the National Assembly inauguration dates from June 3rd, 1999, as it was the case for the 4th National Assembly, to 11 June 2019 for 9th National Assembly, as shown in the table below, further underscores the need to designate a particular day/date for inaugurating the incoming National Assembly. This is to avert a vacuum and constitutional crisis that may arise as a result of the time lag between the inauguration of the President and the swearing in of a newly elected members of the National Assembly. You can take a look at the table. When we came in 1999, it was 3rd of June. In 2003, it was 4th. In 2007, it was 5th. 2011, it was 6th. And then a jump in the 8th Assembly when it was 2015 to 9th. And when it came to us this time, it was 11th. So you can see that it is progressing and creating a vacuum between when the President is inaugurated and when the National Assembly is inaugurated. If we look at 2023, the date that will be dissolved is falls on a Sunday. So it means that in 2023, the National Assembly will be inaugurated about the 14th. And so that is how it's going to progress if we do not act as members of the National Assembly to correct that. It is equally important to point out that why Section 311 of Chapter 8, Part 1 of the 1999 Constitution, as amended, provide transitional and saving provisions with respect to standing orders of the Senate. Established under the former Constitution, no such transitional and saving provisions are contained in any extant law with respect to the standing orders of any outgoing National Assembly, vis-a-vis the proceedings of the incoming National Assembly. That was what happened in 2015. You knew what people went through here, whether the laws that were passed for the inauguration were amended and it became a court case. This bill seeks to address all of that. You may recall that the 8th National Assembly was thrown into endless crisis arising from the legality of the standing orders used for the purpose of electing presiding officers. The absence of a clear transitional provision in the Senate regarding the validity of the standing orders of the outgoing National Assembly on the legislative activities of the incoming or newly elected National Assembly has provided a recipe for needless litigations and controversy. The 9th Senate was confronted with a similar scenario when a slight disagreement ensued among senators over which edition of the standing orders was to be used for election of presiding officers of the Senate, with some of our distinguished colleagues claiming that a court order had invalidated the 2015 Senate standing orders. These thorny issues is also addressed in this bill. Structure and highlights of the principles of the bill. The bill is made up of 22 clauses, subdivided into 5 parts. By virtue of Clause 2 of the bill, this bill is applicable to the designation of a certain and definite date for convening and inaugurating incoming members of the National Assembly, management and coordination of the inauguration activities of the incoming or elected members of the National Assembly. Clause 3 of the bill established an ad hoc committee known as the National Assembly Inauguration Committee under the chairmanship of the clerk to the National Assembly for effective and efficient management and coordination of the inauguration of elected or incoming members of the National Assembly. The functions and powers of the committee are stipulated under Clause 4 of the bill. The bill also specifies explicitly under Clause 11 and 13 the time and procedure for issuing and publicizing the proclamation of the President pursuant to Section 64(3) of the Constitution. This will not that forestall the reoccurrence of the kind of confusion that trade the convening and inauguration of the 9th National Assembly. Another novel provision in the bill is the designation of the first Tuesday immediately following the dissolution of the outgoing National Assembly and the inauguration and swearing in of the person elected as President as the date for the inauguration and holding of the first session of the incoming National Assembly. Mr. President, what this clause seeks to do is that the President and the Executive are inaugurated on the 29th of May. Now, what the bill is stating is that the Tuesday immediately following the inauguration of the President, we're not fixing a date, but we're fixing a day. Tuesday immediately preceding the inauguration of the president will be the day, so that there will be certainty and clarity. What did happen in the last is that people were speculating whether we were being inaugurated on the 9th, on the 11th, or on the 10th. And there was that confusion all over the place. So, Mr. President, if we say that if a president is inaugurated on the 29th, the Tuesday immediately following the inauguration of the president will be the day that will be inaugurated. That will solve a lot of problems. The duty of the clerk to the National Assembly to inaugurate and moderate the first session of the incoming National Assembly is respectively articulated under clause 14 and 15 of the bill. Under clause 16 of the bill, first flow matters such as adoption of the standing orders of the outgoing National Assembly to regulate the proceeding of the incoming National Assembly, adoption of a legislative calendar, and the power to postpone deliberation of such matters to another legislative day are provided in that therein. Conclusion, Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, this bill is not in conflict with the Constitution or any extant acts of the National Assembly, and if passed into law, will go a long way in entrenching a framework for clarity, accountability, and smooth transitioning of legislative powers from any outgoing National Assembly to incoming National Assembly. It is on this note that I wish to appeal for the overwhelming support, Mr. President and distinguished colleagues, for the speedy passage of this bill. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, in compliance with Order 77-3, Senate Standing Orders 2015, as amended, the proposed bill has no additional financial burden on the treasury of the federal government if passed into law. What Order 77-3 of the standing laws of the Senate did say is that for any bill must be accompanied with a financial implication. This bill has no financial implication on the treasury of the federal government. So, Mr. President, I urge my colleagues to dispassionately consider this bill, because if we don't take time, we'll have a situation where in the future, Mr. President, where a president will be inaugurated in May, National Assembly will be inaugurated sometime in December. Within that time lag, there could be a constitutional crisis. And so it is better for us to take the bull by the horn and pass this bill so that every person knows that if a president is inaugurated on the 29th, the Tuesday immediately following the 29th will be the day for the inauguration of the after. How can it be before? Tuesday immediately following the inauguration of the president will be the day that the National Assembly will be inaugurated, so that every person, once you are elected, you know that Tuesday after the 29th will be the day that the National Assembly will be inaugurated, to avoid confusion. And also, Mr. President, what is important in the bill? What is important in the bill, Mr. President, is that when we came here, before you were elected with the Deputy Senate President, there were issues on the floor of this House as to which of the standing orders we were going to use for the purpose of that. Mr. President, this bill provides for that. And so every person comes here, there's no need for any person to go to court to stop the proceedings because it doesn't like or has misgivings as to what will go on. So everything will be settled the same way that the executive has settled on the 29th, so that we have no crisis as this democracy proceeds down the road. Mr. President, I so submit.
Thank you very much. Senate Minority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. My name is Einea Baribe, and I represent Abia South. Mr. President, my people say, that is, if you take quick action, you can forestall any negative things that may come. Mr. President, this Senate, let me first thank Senator Gabriel Suswan for this very wonderful bill. This Senate cannot sit, cannot be inaugurated, except by the proclamation of a president. Assuming you have a president that refuses to proclaim, how do we sit? Because that is the issue. Making sure that we entrench all these good things about democracy. And that is the only thing I see in this bill. And I don't see any part of this bill that we're going to. It is very, very good that we continue to entrench democracy. So I fully support this bill, and I pray my colleagues to also give the same support to this bill because it helps Nigeria. Thank you, Mr. President.
Senate Deputy Minority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. Very distinguished colleagues. Mr. President, this bill is actually a masterpiece in trying to moderate our proceedings and to avoid crises like my leader said. It is born out of experience, actually. What happened in the 8th Senate and even in the 9th Senate. If we had had a bill like this in place, there would have been no need for even the court process that we went through that almost divided us at the process or at the period of inauguration. So I think the bill is a demonstration of the fact that we want to moderate ourselves, just as we pass laws that regulate agencies as empowered us by the Constitution. Having said this,
Flipping with his phone.
President, it will not only be important to us, it will also reflect even in inauguration of the state assemblies. In my own view, it will be good because if the first week, Tuesday being the first day of the week that we sit, will reflect both in the National Assembly and in the state assemblies. And gradually, a process may evolve that may need a legislation which will require state governors to ensure that their cabinet are formed immediately after inauguration. These are part of the issues that we are facing now. There are some state governments till now have not even constituted their cabinet because there is no law in place, although there is, but the period is not definite. So I want to congratulate my brother, Senator Susuam, for this timely intervention that this bill is truly coming in at the appropriate time. So I urge my colleagues to show support because there is no controversy associated.
Point of order.
Point of order, Mr. President, distinguished colleagues. I come under order 63 and 64. Constitutional point of order. The Senate, with your permission, Mr. President, I will read.
Please go ahead.
The Senate and the House of Representatives shall each sit for a period of not less than 181 days in a year. And then 64 says the Senate and the House of Representatives shall each stand dissolved at the expiration of a period of 4 years, commencing from the date of the first sitting of the House. Mr. President, the first sitting will be done immediately after the proclamation by Mr. President. Once the proclamation is signed, the Senate will reconvene. And I doubt very much if what my good brother is proposing will not go against the provisions of the Constitution.
Distinguished Senator Adamalero, I would suggest that you, if you choose to contribute, you caress that issue, but the debate will have to go on. It's one issue that we really have to resolve. If we are inaugurated on the 11th, we cannot expire before then. So this is something that we can discuss, and maybe when it comes to public hearing, the issue could be looked into whether it is possible at all. But I think, meanwhile, the debate on the bill will continue, because this is not to stop the debate.
Mr. President, I still insist that we should look at the two provisions of the Constitution. There is no point to continue with the debate once we know that the debate will go against the provisions of the Constitution.
The distinguished Senator Adamalero, I still maintain that this debate will continue. When you choose to contribute, raise this as fundamental issues that could stop this bill from being practical. You see, we are struggling today to reverse the trend of our national budget. We used to pass the budget sometimes in June. Now we made it a task that we should address that so that our budget starts from January. This is one way of looking into it, but I agree with you, it's a constitutional matter that we need to resolve. So we should continue with debate, and he's seeking for second reading. If we can stop the second reading with this argument, it's a chance. This is the way I look at it. So my ruling is the debate will continue, but if you choose to speak, you should raise those fundamental issues. And I agree with you, especially 64. So who was, no, you're finished. James Manager.
Thank you, Mr. President. My highly respected colleagues, James Ebiowo, Manager, CON, Delta South. Mr. President, this is a good bill. A good bill with caution. A good bill, but with caution. Mr. President, my highly respected colleagues, we are all living witnesses to this zigzag approach. The outgoing Senate is aware of when they are leaving. The incoming Senate is not very clear about which particular day the inauguration will take place. So there's a measure of confusion. And as pointed out by, in the lead debates, by the sponsor of the bill, you can see the dates from 3rd of June in 1999 to now 11th of June. We were inaugurated on the 11th of June. So it is not very clear, and leaving this thing in the hands of civil servants to calculate as to when Senate is going to sit, Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays. At the end of the day, there's a lot of confusion. So this bill has come to bring certainty as to when Senate is sitting. I think it's the practice world over. However, Mr. President, there are very serious constitutional.
I think somebody's phone is on.
Mr. President, my highly respected colleagues, because of the provisions of the Constitution regarding the National Assembly, very fundamental provisions of the National Assembly as to when, who has power to make proclamation, that is for the President, 63, 64. And of course, if you go into the exclusive legislative list, there are quite a lot of things that are there. And we are talking about a major event in the life of the country and is provided for in the Constitution. What is not there in the Constitution is the definitive date of the inauguration of the National Assembly. And therefore, Mr. President, my highly respected colleagues, this bill, I like your ruling on the motion by Senator Alero. This bill will provoke a lot of discussion, some for, some against, and everybody will be excited. At the end of the day, let there be very serious and rigorous public hearing on this particular bill. And let senators that have served here, presiding officers that have served here, either in the Senate or in the House of Reps, let everybody be invited to also provide their own perspectives to what can be done for us to have certainty as to when the National Assembly will be inaugurated. But whichever way you want to go, as far as I'm concerned, I was inaugurated on the 11th of June, and the constitutional provision is very clear that I was inaugurated on the 11th of June. My stay here will continue until the 11th of June. Sit up. Mr. President, my highly respected colleagues, because of the obvious national implications of this particular bill, Mr. President, I want to advise that this is one bill that will require serious constitutional amendment to streamline things, even in the states, because today we have a lot of issues about state governors making proclamations that are not in line with the yearnings of their own people or those who have been elected. So once there is a constitutional provision, this will streamline almost everything for our country. Mr. President, my highly respected colleagues, this is one bill that will provoke, like I said, a lot of discussion. And therefore, I urge everybody to at least support this bill for it to pass a second reading so that it will provoke the type of discussions and conclusions that we will arrive at finally in the interest of our nation.
DSP.
Thank you, Mr. President. Oviomo Agege, Delta Central Senatorial District. Mr. President, the debate that will be provoked following the passage of this bill in second reading, that debate has already been provoked. Mr. President, I am tempted to align myself very much with the position taken by Senator Alero. Mr. President, our colleague, Senator Suswan, has done a terrific job, no doubt. But what is important here, and very, very fundamental here, is what we're dancing around. This is a constitutional issue. He has articulated the provisions of Section 64, most especially Section 3. He's also alluded to the powers, the legislative powers vested in the National Assembly by the provision of Section 4 of the Constitution. He has done that. He's done that very, very admirably. But, Mr. President, in the exercise of the powers vested under Section 4, whatever we come up with here are acts, Mr. President, of the National Assembly. And when acts of the National Assembly, when they're in conflict with specific constitutional provisions, what happens? Section 1, Section 3 is very, very clear about that. So the only way which the manager alluded to, but he danced around a little bit, is for us to make this amendment. And it's a good amendment. I mean, everybody ought to know how long they'll be here for. When that date begins to count, no debate about that. But the only way I believe, Mr. President, we can bring this to pass is to amend the Constitution, not by passing a bill that will not be in conflict with the provisions of the Constitution. So we have the constitutional review exercise coming up. For those who believe that we should do this, they can bring an amendment to amend Section 64 of the Constitution dealing with proclamation, when that proclamation can take place. So I think that is the best way to go, Mr. President. while I'm not opposed to general principles of this bill as articulated by Senator Suswan, this issue is very, very fundamental, and I think that there's no need, postponing the evil day.
Senator Suswan, please go back to your seat. Distinguished colleagues, I deliberately allowed debate on this because I'm of the opinion that when any of our colleagues bring a bill here, we should listen to the views of other senators. And I think the point of order raised by Senator Aliru, especially 64, is fundamental. And when Senator Jones Manager alluded to the necessity and imperative of a constitutional review, it is crystal clear that this bill, even if you sign it into law, cannot vitiate Section 64. So I will advise that we tow the path of constitutional amendment to achieve that. There is no doubt that no matter what anybody will say here, this bill is a good bill, it's well-intentioned, and it's justified because we can see the trend. But we cannot really address the problem through this bill. It has to go through a constitutional amendment. This bill, however, has succeeded in igniting the argument that we have to do something about this. So I will advise our colleague here, Senator Suswan, that we stand down the debate on this bill, and then you can bring a constitutional amendment to address the issue. But the issue is a serious issue. So I will call you to say something about this.
Well, Mr. President, the essence of the bill, like you rightly said, was to ignite discussion on the issue of inauguration. It is something that have agitated the minds of a lot of Nigerians. And so I will listen to the voice of wisdom as stated here by my colleagues, and I will go back as we step down the bill and bring a constitutional amendment after a very thorough work has been done, so that we amend this. Mr. President, before we went on recess, you know that there was a committee set up to address the issue in Edo State. If the provisions of the Constitution are specific as to when governors and the President will inaugurate the Houses of Assembly and the National Assembly, of course, the issue in Edo State will not arise. And so, and in Bauchi. And so it is very important, Mr. President, for us as the National Assembly that are saddled with the responsibility under Section 4(1) of the Constitution to make laws for the good governance of this country, to amend the provisions of the Constitution as it relates to this matter, Section 64 and 63, so that we can bring into the inauguration of the National Assembly and various state houses of assembly to a certain date, so that they avoid a constitutional crisis down the road. So, Mr. President, I accept your ruling, and I will go back and bring a constitutional amendment as it relates to this bill. Thank you very much.
Distinguished Senator Suswan, this your amendment is going to be copyright protected. Distinguished colleagues, we'll wait to hear from distinguished Senator Suswan and a bill seeking for a constitutional amendment to those sections that will help us address the issue. Leader of the Senate.
Thank you, Mr. President. Order. Mr. President, my distinguished colleagues, The second order of the day is the second reading of the Modibo Adama University Technology Yola Establishment, etc. Bill 2019. Distinguished senators will recall that the bill was read the first time in this chamber on Wednesday, 9th October 2019. Mr. President, we may wish to invite Senator Aisha Ahmed Tairu to move the motion for the bill to be read the second time.
Distinguished Senator Aisha Tairu Ahmed Binani.
Thank you, Mr. President, distinguished colleagues. Aisha Tairu Ahmed Binani, representing Adamawa Central. Mr. President, most distinguished colleagues, I'm delighted to lead this debate on the general principle of the bill for an act to establish the Modibo Adama University, Yola, Adamawa State. Yes, you recall that this bill was read on the 9th day of October 2019. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, all over the world, adjustments are being made to conventional modes and forms of education. As social challenges continue to stiffen and social knowledge continue to deepen, the world is increasingly becoming conscious of the need to effectively utilize resources, making the best of every social investment for the greater good. One area that this finds expression in education is the switch from monodisciplinary institution of learning to multidisciplinary and interdisciplinary institutions of learning. Mr. President, most distinguished colleagues, the days of monodisciplinary institution of higher learning are over, no matter what perspective we choose to look at it. The world is heading towards the provision of such education that students can study whatever, wherever, and whenever. The cardinal principle of this bill, Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, is the conversion of Modibo Adama University of Technology, Yola, a monodisciplinary, limited, and yet resource-gulping institution of higher learning to Modibo Adama University, Yola, a multidisciplinary, dynamic, community-relevant, and engaging institution of higher learning. A brief history of the Modibo University of Technology, Yola, Mautech. Mautech was established in 1981 as a federal university of technology by the federal government. It was by creation a specialized university with emphasis on technology, that's science, technology, and engineering. The federal government in 1984 merged the then 3-year-old university with the region's premier university, the University of Maiduguri. Yes. The management programs under the arrangement was then domiciled in Maiduguri, while the Yola campus continued to focus on its original technology-based programs. Negative implication of the statutory limitation of the university. The university's inherent statutory limitation exposed it to a lot of disadvantages, making it unable to meet the needs and yearning of its host states. The principal purpose for which it was established. For instance, Adamawa State, being one of the states with low students admission in science, suffered low placement rate in the Mautech, being a science-based university. This denied the state the very essence for which the university was domiciled there. Secondly, the limitation adversely affected the female students' demography. According to statistics from the universities, there has been a 40% drop rate in female enrollment in the university following the reversal to core technology programs. This has greatly undermined the federal government effort in mainstreaming the girl-child education, especially in the Northeast region. The most disturbing factor is the inability of the university, due to this statutory limitation, to fill in the much-needed education gap in the region. Adamawa State is one of the peaceful states in the Northeast region at the moment. Yet the only federal institution located there cannot utilize its potential as its core programs, as statutorily defined, are not in alignment with the academic and social realities of the host state. For instance, in the 2016-2017 academic session, the university enrollment for the year was 7,309. The next academic session, which is 2017-2018, the enrollment dropped to 3,795 students. That's a 48% reduction as a result of the decision to ban admission into management program in specialized universities. This affected and keep affecting the state in terms of opportunities for its teeming youths yearning for university education. Justification of the bill. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, the justification of this bill lies in the fact that considering the enormous investment made by the federal government in this university vis-a-vis its inability to sufficiently absorb students from the state, diversify and create economic opportunity for its host community due to statutory limitation, it's cogent that the university be transitioned into a conventional multidisciplinary institution with programs that resonate with the locals and then help the university diversify in ways more profitable to itself, the host state and the region in general. The newly status of the university, I believe, Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, will impact positively on the host state in many ways. Insurgents' activities around that region has made many parents and guardians skeptical of sending their wards to conventional universities in the neighboring states. If the university is diversified, those youths will get admission within the safety of their states. The conversion of MAUTEC will also call for expansion of not just its curricula, but structures and human resource engagement. This will reflect positively on the local economy as jobs will be created and the redundant youth base will be positively engaged. Lastly, Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, the university will be able to provide opportunity for indigenes of the state to get enrolled into professional courses like law, accounting, management, etc., which they do not easily find in other universities where preference is to the indigent. I want to take this opportunity to let this chamber know that there was a time that the university approached the NUC for approving those courses, and the NUC gave them approval. But it was cut short because of the ban by the Federal Executive Council, because there was no legislative backing. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, the University of Technology Act 1986 that re-established MAUTEC, then Federal University of Technology, made its cardinal objective very clear. Those objectives, as far as the realities of the whole state, Adamawa, is concerned, is largely defeated in that the status of the university limits it from opening its doors to all persons being a specialized university. In the light of all those factors enumerated and the prevailing circumstances of the state and the entire Northeast region, I hereby plead that justice be served the people of Adamawa State by converting the only federal university in the state into a multidisciplinary university that will pave way for the people to be enrolled into the university in courses that benefit the immediate state and fill in the wide gap in professional and other socially minded programs. It is my earnest belief that this will not only justify the location of the university in the state, but equally justify the capital investment made so far, as well as complement the effort of this government in developing the North, as well as complementing the effort of this government in developing the Northeast region. And the people of Adamawa State will forever remain grateful to the Ninth Assembly for passing this bill. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, thank you very much. I so move.
Senator Michael Nachi.
Thank you, Mr. President. Distinguished colleagues, my name is Senator Michael Aman Nachi, PhD, representing a Boy South, Senatorial Zone. Refer to the motion concerning this school. I make way to say this is almost the final lap for the cry of our colleagues from Adamawa State. When this school was established at Federal University of Technology, it competed very well with its colleagues or rivalry. Then 6 years ago, it was changed to Modibo Adamawa to recognize the founding father of Adama Kingdom from the then Cameroon. Now, we are saying the location of this university has called for this bill to go through. One, I requested that from Taraba to where the boundary of Adamawa and Borno is, we don't have a conventional university that will ensure in departments or faculties like Faculty of Medicine, Faculty of Religious Studies that...
Chief Whip, please.
Please, Yusuf, take your seat.
Hello? So, I'm saying that taking this university to multidisciplinary institution will help the school to also adopt some faculties. One of such faculties will be the religion faculties that will take us nearer to God, which does not exist in universities of technology, namely Christian studies and Islamic studies. The multidisciplinary will bring this university into that line. Secondly, the multidisciplinary program, name now, we bring the opportunity for faculties of medicine and the allied matters to be established. Looking at this bill, Mr. President, it is not just the senators from Adamawa people that will benefit. Everybody, whether you are from Calabar, Baisa, as far as you reside within this area, your children and yourself will benefit. So I therefore support that we really ask NUC to change this university from technology to multidisciplinary university, which we now bear the name Modibo Adamawa University, Yola. I therefore submit and support, Mr. President. Thank you.
Senator Kwasheki Godia.
Mr. President, my very distinguished colleagues, I am Senator Akwashiki Godia, representing Nasarawa North Central District. Let me first and foremost commend my sister, my good neighbor, for bringing this bill at a better time. As we all know, education is the bedrock of every economy all over the world. And without education, we cannot achieve what we want and how we want to move our country forward. Mr. President, this bill before us today and now seeks to expand, promote, and enhance educational sector in the country and make education accessible and closer to the general public and the villagers, especially for the less privileged who don't have money to send their children to other cities to acquire education. And a growing economy as ours that is designed to be among the top 20 economic all over the world must take this seriously to improve human capital development. And to achieve this, we need education. I want to commend my sister, my good neighbor, for bringing this, and I am in support of this bill to let this proposal pass second reading for the establishment of Modibo University in Adamawa to give quality education for the people of Adamawa State and even other states in the country. As well as me, thank you.
Have you? Okay. Senator Gabo Suswam.
Mr. President, my name is Dr. Suswam, Benue Northeast. Mr. President, this bill is a straightforward bill. This is a bill that needs no debate at all because it's straightforward. All that the distinguished senator from Adamawa is asking is that this university that is already in existence should be converted to a conventional university so as to absorb more of the indigenous people who hitherto have not been availed the opportunity of accessing some of these courses. So, Mr. President, like I'm saying, it's straightforward. It's not a bill that is complicated. It is all about converting a university from a mono university to a conventional one. And I think that this is good because Adamawa is disadvantaged educationally. And if you have a university that is offering, it's a mono university, it's basically science, Mr. President, you know that it will not help the people that much. But if we turn it into a conventional university, I think it will be of more benefit to the indigenes of that state and even the surrounding state. So for me, Mr. President can just put the question, this bill should be read the second time so that we can move forward. It will be passed, Mr. President. I shall submit.
Is there anybody against the bill? I will put the question. Those in favor that this bill be now read a second time, say aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. Clerk of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, the bill for an act to establish the Modibo Adama University Yola and to make comprehensive provisions for its due management and administration and for other related matters 2019, second reading.
A bill for an act to establish the Modibo Adama University Yola and to make comprehensive provisions for its due management and administration and for other related matters 2019, second reading, taken and is referred to the Committee on Tertiary Institutions and Third Fund and to report back within 4 weeks. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, my highly respected and distinguished colleagues, the third order of the day is the second reading of Federal Polytechnic Aba Establishment Etc. Bill 2019. Distinguished senators will recall that the bill was read the first time in this chamber on Thursday, 7 November 2019. Mr. President, you may wish to invite distinguished Senator Theodore Oji to move the motion for the bill to be read the second time.
Senator Theodore Oji, Uchendu, Global.
Thank you, sir. Your Excellency, the Senate President, my distinguished colleagues, my name is Senator Theodore A. Oji Uchendu. I represent the people of Abia Central Senatorial District. Your Excellency, my distinguished colleagues, permit me to lead this debate for the establishment and upgrade of Abia State Polytechnic Aba to a federal polytechnic in Abia. This bill, SB 10, was first read in this hallowed chamber on the 7th of November 2019. The upgrade of Abia State Polytechnic and its takeover by the federal government is to equip it with a broad-based capacity to offer and sustain technical and technological education with a view also to mopping up the excess number of applicants who, on annual basis, find admission impossible due to the limited space in the present institution. The economy and GDP of any country is defined by its technology and productive capacity. It's a known fact that today the growth and emergence of Asia in the present time is as a result of an industrial, scientific, and economic power based on technological improvement. The Chinese, working on our airports, roads, and complex buildings, are not professors, but rather technicians and artisans. Polytechnic education is now much needed than ever. We have made the mistakes in the past by enforcing the wrong curriculum, making all dependent on government jobs. A purposeful diversion and high-tech investment in polytechnic education will provide working hands that will be self-employed. Historical background. Abia State Polytechnic was established in 1992 by the Abia State government, precisely 27 years ago. It presently has 12,000 students population, 5 schools, and 21 departments. The structure is already on ground. Only few institutions have been able to survive from the scratch. Therefore, the need to start on something already on ground seems better. The Federal Polytechnic in Ekwe, Bayelsa State, despite investment made through PTDF, has been unable to start. It is the same story with the Federal Polytechnic in Bonny, River State. Despite good funds on ground, it has been difficult to start. Conversely, Hussein Adamu Federal Polytechnic, Kazware, Jigawa State, Waziri Federal Polytechnic, Birnin, Kebbi State, Alvan Ikoku College of Education, Owerri, Imo State, also taken over by federal government, are success stories and have been doing very well. Aba has the advantage of Hussein Adamu Federal Polytechnic Jigawa, Waziri Federal Polytechnic of Kebbi State, and Alvan Ikoku College of Education, Owerri, because there are structures on ground, both academic and non-academic staff, and an appreciable student population. A federal polytechnic in Aba will go beyond its initial mandate in establishing a visible federal presence in Aba and beyond. Aba is equidistant to all South and Southeast states. It's about 60 kilometers from Onitsha, Anambra State, 70 kilometers to Asaba, Delta State, 28 kilometers to Port Harcourt, River State, 40 kilometers to Yenagoa, Bayelsa State, 40 kilometers to Uyo, Akwa Ibom State, and 50 kilometers to Calabar, Cross River State. Students from these areas will be glad to attend the Federal Polytechnic in Aba more than they are doing right now. There is no doubt that a Federal Polytechnic in Aba will open up an untapped gold mine. Aba is highly populated with all categories of people: traders, artisans, industrialists, etc., etc., etc. The traders will willingly subscribe to evening schools and part-time studies, and will see it as education without fears. As the School of Business and Management Technology with its 6 departments can easily foster a study strategy to suit the traders and artisans rather than these adult students struggling to make the school system suit them. Abia Polytechnic Aba has land for expansion as it has already another campus. Aba is already urban with pipe-borne water and boreholes. There are 2 independent power supply agencies, including the national grid. Therefore, energy is available and water is also available for use by the students and lecturers, and the ingredients that make for technological experimentation will not be lacking. The much needed technological incubation can start in Aba, as most inhabitants are already industrialists and have contact with the industrial world and can open their sites and yards for practical experiences to the students of the Polytechnic. The made in Aba goods and services that are already trading will rapidly expand the more, bringing in more wealth reducing unemployment, stopping criminality, and placing Nigeria high on the index of local productive capacity. The much envisioned technological wonderland with federal presence will start in Aba. It is worthy to note also that the federal government has a policy of establishing one federal university, one federal polytechnic, and one federal college of education in every state of the federation. While Imo State, from where Abia State was created, has a federal university, a federal polytechnic, there in Nekede, taken over by the federal government, and a federal college of education, that is Abaniko College of Education. Ebonyi State, which was created from Abia, has the same. That is a federal university, a federal polytechnic, and a federal college of education. Abia State, on the other hand, has only a federal university, that is Michael Okpara University of Agriculture. No federal polytechnic and no federal college of education. Hence, the need for the federal government to take over and upgrade the Abia State Polytechnic so that the state government can at least invest the fund being expended in Abia Polytechnic into other fruitful and more needed ventures. Conclusion. The need for Abia Polytechnic to be upgraded is one of utmost importance to all. As it is now, it will serve as a stable federal polytechnic in the Niger Delta. Already, it is non-discriminatory in its admission policy. All religions, gender, and age are encouraged. The trickling effect will be enormous with the array of schools and departments. All certifications are possible, which will lead to high and available manpower to service the nation. Technological advancement will move at an unimaginable speed, and we will be better for it. We believe that this request that we are making here is appropriate. We believe also that the request is genuine and that the request is on the right track. I therefore, Your Excellency, the Senate President, and my distinguished colleagues, I plead with you to give their full-fledged support to this bill so that it will scale without interpretation. Thank you very much.
Minority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. Distinguished colleagues, let me thank Senator Theodore Ochendri for bringing up this bill, which I must emphasize had come up in the 8th Senate and was approved, but had not been signed into law before we came into the 9th Senate. So we want to thank Senator Oji for also bringing up this matter, for the need to have this federal polytechnic in Abia State. Mr. President, both the whip and the minority whip are not here. And let us see what the majority deputy whip will say. Deputy whip, please, am I protected?
Everybody tonight.
Thank you, Deputy Whip. And so, without much ado, I know that this is an important bill. This is a bill that does not in any way yield any negative thing. And it's a bill that I know that each and every one of us will support. And therefore, I say, Mr. President, that it's better that following our rules and in conformity with what my friends in this Senate and all my distinguished colleagues have said, that we should please put the question.
Senator Rogers Okorocha.
Mr. President, any bill coming from distinguished Senator Theodore Oji would definitely be supported by me, because Senator Theodore Oji is a good man, and we'll call him Ochendo. Mr. President, at this time, while I support this bill, I want to, however, draw our attention to the situation that we find ourselves as a nation. And that is to say, Mr. President, that the issue of higher education, university and polytechnics, is very key to the economic development of our nation. Only yesterday, emotions poured like water on the establishment of the textile industry and the need to encourage the manufacturing sector of our economy. A few days ago in this hallowed chamber, we all cried out for the level of unemployment in our nation. And we're all worried by the level of insecurity and insurgence that we suffer as a nation. But, Mr. President, the truth remains that our educational system is not tailored to support our economic development. Technology is the way to go. I had wanted to make a statement here before this one. But, Mr. President, if we are talking about job creation, we are talking about improving the economy of this nation, then we must watch clearly the type of education we give to our people. I do not know whether we are moving forward or moving backward. We have argued here and we accepted the idea to have a university, general. But in my opinion, in line with the submission I have made, is that we should begin as a nation to develop specific universities for specific technological development, because that's the way to go. It will help our nation if we have university for robotics or artificial intelligence, because that is the future. Rather than having a university that produces graduates that gives nothing to our system and who will depend on white-collar job for their existence. While I support this polytechnic, moving to a federal polytechnic, Mr. President, we need to encourage and change our educational system, especially in the universities, and make them more specific and more science-oriented. Of what use is some of these sociology courses now? Religious studies, psychology. Of what importance is it to our economy? Some of these courses must go down for diploma level courses. Let's go specifically and encourage the science-based courses, technological courses that will help for development of our economy. This is the only way forward. And if we do this, it will help. So in addition to the bill,
you can round up now, please.
I hope this federal polytechnic, when established, will be more specific to giving such education that will help the economy. Thank you.
Is there anybody against the bill? Okay, those in favor that this bill be now read a second time, say aye. Aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Clerk of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, a bill for an act to establish the Federal Polytechnic Aba to provide full-time courses in technology, applied science, management, and other field of studies, and to make provision for the general administration of such polytechnics and for other matters, 2019, second reading.
A bill for an act to establish the Federal Polytechnic, ABA, to provide full-time courses in technology, applied science, management, and other field of studies, and to make provisions for the general administration of such polytechnics and for other matters, 2019, second reading. And the bill is committed to the Committee on Tertiary Institutions and TED Fund to report back within 4 weeks. Leader of the Senate.
Thank you, Mr. President. The fourth order of the day is a motion standing in the bill in the name of distinguished Senator Barrow Jibrin and 25 others on the menace of child trafficking in Nigeria. Mr. President, you may wish to invite Senator Barrow Jibrin to move the motion.
Senator Barrow Jibrin.
Mr. President, I am Senator Barrow Jibrin. I represent Kano North. Mr. President, I stand to move the motion that has the title, The Menace of Child Trafficking in Nigeria. Mr. President, before I read, let me say that there is a typographical error.
Senator Albert Bassey, please leave Senator Stella Odua alone.
Mr. President, there's a typographical error where the name of Senator Sadiq Umar, who is a co-sponsor, is omitted here, as well as in the prayers we have included the committees that will treat this motion, Committee on National Security and Intelligence, which is also omitted. May I therefore permit me, Mr. President, to read the motion as follows. That the Senate knows with serious concern the trafficking of children across the country for the purpose of forced adoption, domestic service, prostitution, and other forms of exploitative labor is becoming a widespread phenomenon. Aware that there are reported cases where children were kidnapped in the states of Gombe, FCT, Kano, and so on, and were sold to some willing buyers, and some of the captives have been forcefully adopted by the kidnappers in some parts of this country. Aware that some of these children have been rescued by security agencies and returned and reunited with their parents. But it is estimated that several others are still with their kidnappers, and worried that if this trend is not nipped in the bud, it is capable of bringing about a child slavery system in the entire country, thereby destroying our future generation and negatively affecting the image of our country within the Committee of Nations. Accordingly, resolves to 1, mandate the committees on women affairs and youth development, as well as that of judiciary, human rights, and legal matters, together with the Committee on National Security and Intelligence, to conduct an investigative hearing on child trafficking in this country with a view to provide solutions and to submit their reports within 2 weeks. And 2, implore all the agencies that are responsible to curb and eliminate child trafficking and trafficking persons to be more effective in their discharge of their duties. Mr. President, I so move.
Distinguished Senator Uche Lilian Ukunife, you can second it and make your contribution as well.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, my name is Netuche Lilian Ukunife. Mr. President, I represent Anambra Central from Anambra State. Mr. President, I rise to second this motion moved by my very dear colleague, distinguished Senator Jubrin Barao. Mr. President, in supporting this motion and in seconding it, I'm seconding it and supporting it two separate and distinct grounds. Mr. President, as a woman, I am very unhappy because these issues of human trafficking affect women and children more, especially girls, who are mostly the victims of labor and sex trafficking, especially in the developing countries like Nigeria. Mr. President, secondly, as a chairman Senate Committee on Science and Technology, this motion also has underscored the need to increase our funding for science and technology. It is only through science and technology that we can fight child trafficking in Nigeria and all over the world. Mr. President, human trafficking is not just a problem in Nigeria. It is really a global problem. Recent reports by U.S. Department indicate that over 40 million people are trafficked every year around the world. And mostly, you have women and children. And this is time, Mr. President, for us to look inwards on the prayers of this motion. I believe that my brother did a thorough job in coming up with this motion and also its recommendations. Mr. President, while we must commend NAPTIP, NAPTIP has been doing a great job in curbing human trafficking in this country, but we have a lot more work to do in doing that. I believe there is still a lot of room for improvement for us to support NAPTIP to increase the speed in which they are handling the issue of child trafficking in this country, especially through science and technology. It is only through technology that we can track all these criminals that are trafficking on human beings. Then, Mr. President, there's also instance of true, there's also improve efficiency in science and technology that we can improve communication and explore new strategies and opportunities to track and apprehend these human traffickers. Mr. President, while I support this motion to be passed, I want to plead that we have to go back and look into the budgetary provision for science and technology in 20.
You can round up.
If we do not increase the budgetary provision for science and technology. Science and technology.
Your mic is not on. Your mic is on.
Mr. President, go to Ghana and see the budgetary provision for science and technology.
The solution, you can now round up.
Mr. President has switched me off. We can't talk about increasing the speed in which we tackle this menace without talking about science and technology. So I support it, and I want my colleagues to support it too, while I plead that our budgetary provision is enhanced in 2020 budget. Thank you, Mr. President.
Is there anybody against this motion? So we go to the prayers. Mandate the committees on women affairs and youth development, as well as that of judiciary, human rights and legal matters, to conduct an investigative hearing on child trafficking in the country with a view to profile solutions and to submit their report within 2 weeks. Amendment, Senator Alero.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator Muhammad Adamu Alero is my name. I think among committees to be included is the National Security and Intelligence, because they do a lot of work. And the DSS has done much in recent times in apprehending traffickers. Just recently in Kebbi State, they arrested about 3 or 4 people connected with child trafficking.
So I think it's good to include security and intelligence.
Any seconder? Senator, the Deputy Chief Whip.
Thank you, Mr. President. Aliu Sabi Abdullahi, Major North. I second the motion the amendment that the Security and Intelligence Committee be included in Prayer 1.
Distinguished colleagues, those in favor of Prayer 1 as amended say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Prayer 2, implore all the agencies that are responsible to curb and eliminate child trafficking and trafficking in persons to be more effective in the discharge of their duties. Those in favor of Prayer 2 say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Additional prayer, Senator Mohammed Njumogoji.
Mr. President, I am Mohammed Njumogoji from the Central. The prayer is let those so far caught in the child trafficking be appropriately punished to serve an interim measure and deterrent. Because, Mr. President, this story of child trafficking is coming almost on a daily basis. And nothing has been seen to have been done to those people that were in court. We see pictures of those that are responsible for the child trafficking, but we don't hear anything. They are never taken to court. They are never properly charged.
How many years?
But they are not doing nothing. So,
10 years.
So I think I'm not going to prescribe because they may be punished according to existing law, pending the final report from these committees, which may recommend better measures and better punishment. But let them be seen to be punished for this very grievous offense of stealing children.
Can we say prosecuted rather than punished? So, seconder to the amendment, Senator Abraham Gover.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency. My name is Senator Ibrahim Gover from Sokoto East. I second the motion heavily moved, or the additional prayer heavily moved by His Excellency Njumogoji, that they should be prosecuted accordingly.
Okay, those in favor of the additional prayer by Senator Mohammed Njumogoji say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Senator Ali Umaga Takadawamako, additional prayer.
Okay. Additional Mr. Prayer, Mr. President, is to provide for legislation that will provide clear penalties for these child traffickers. Because I think, Mr. President, the way and manner it is being handled doesn't really serve a deterrent to those people involved in this child trafficking. So there should be a legislation that provides stiffer penalties for child trafficking in this country to make sure that we are fighting against the menace. I also submit, Mr. President.
Any seconder to the additional prayer amendment? Senator Jibrin Barrow.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm Senator Barrow Jibrin. I stand to second the motion for additional prayers moved by Senator Ali Umaga Takadawamako. I so second.
Those in favor of the additional prayer by Senator Ali Umaga Takadawamako say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Senator Adamalero, additional prayer.
Thank you, Mr. President. The additional prayer I want to propose is that state governors, being closer to the people, should take proactive measures to protect vulnerable, weak and vulnerable children from being abducted to child trafficking. Thank you.
Any seconder? Seconder, Senator Ali Umaga Takadawamako.
Thank you, Mr. President. While still commending the move of this motion, Senator Barrow Jibril, I do stand to support the amendment as proposed by Senator Alero. I so second. Thank you.
Distinguished colleagues, those in favor of the additional prayer by Senator Mohammed Adamwamako say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Distinguished colleagues, thank you very much for the motion. Let me congratulate Senator Barrow Jibril, the mover of this motion. This is one evil that is turning into a serious menace in our society, and we have to do everything and anything possible to protect our citizens. Leader of the Senate.
Thank you, Mr. President, my distinguished and highly respected colleagues. The fifth order of the day is a motion standing in the name of distinguished Senator Akon Etim Eyakingi and 13 others on the urgent need to address the menace of piracy and banditry in the Gulf of Guinea and Nigeria's internal waters. Mr. President, you may wish to invite distinguished Senator Akon Etim Eyakingi to move the motion.
Senator Akon Eyakingi.
Thank you, Mr. President. Distinguished colleagues, I am Senator Akon Eyakingi, Akwa Ibom South Senatorial District. I rise to move a motion on urgent need to address the menace of piracy and banditry in the Gulf of Guinea and Nigeria's internal waters. This motion, Mr. President, has 13 co-sponsors, but I want to plead to add 2 more. The additional co-sponsors are Senator Gershom Bassi of Cross River South and Senator Francis Fadahunsi, Osun East. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, the Senate commends the federal government of Nigeria, the Navy and NIMASA for their fight for the reduction of piracy and banditry activities in the Gulf of Guinea and Nigeria's water. The Senate is aware that the International Maritime Bureau for Piracy Reporting and the United Nations had categorized the Gulf of Guinea as the most dangerous waters in the world. In 2018, 57 of the 156 reported incidents of pirates and armed banditry occurred in the Gulf of Guinea, and 41 of the incidents took place in Nigeria's waters. So far, 21 of the 78 reported incidents of this global menace happened in Nigeria in 2019. Observes that the Regional Maritime Security Institute has noted that 50% or more of piracy and banditry attacks on the Gulf of Guinea are unreported. Notes that due to the fight to reduce piracy and armed banditry in Nigeria's international waters and the activities of the Navy in Bayelsa and River State creeks, the pirates and armed bandits have been forced to now move further inward to terrorize local fishermen, traders, and transporters in Oron coastal area of Nigeria, extorting money, stealing goods, snatching boats, raping women and girls, kidnapping for ransom, and taking the hostages to their camps in the creeks. Last week, Mr. President and distinguished colleagues, I visited my constituency in Akwa Ibom State, and again, a report was brought to me of the harassment of the bandits who attacked the fishermen, took their goods, the little money they had, and also the engine that they use in powering the boats. The Senate further notes that despite the efforts of the Navy, piracy and armed banditry is now common in Nigerian internal waters, especially along the Oran coastal area, making the waters perilous for fishermen, traders, and transporters. The menace of the pirates and bandits who have made the creeks of Akwa Ibom State their habitation has led to untold stories of wars, hardship, kidnap, and death among the fishing communities, traders, and transporters. It has crippled the local economy of the area and led to further instability in the Niger Delta region. Worried that if the activities of the pirates and armed bandits continue, more lives would be lost, and the tales of rape, deaths, and goods, and boat snatching, kidnapping for ransom would go on, reducing fellow Nigerians to hunted humans in their own country. The stress that a large section of Nigerians who depend on the waters for their livelihood are at the mercy of pirates and bandits. Senate recalls that NIMASA had initiated Operation Deep Blue Sea Project, which aimed to effectively combat piracy and armed banditry by establishing a permanent maritime police. The establishment of maritime police would go a long way in effectively policing piracy and armed banditry. The project is still in the planning phase, and no law for the establishment of the maritime police has been made. NIMASA is reliant on secondment of personnel from the Navy and other services. The full implementation of the Deep Blue Sea Project will curb the menace of piracy and armed banditry in the Gulf of Guinea and Nigeria's internal waters. Senate is reminded that the right to life is a fundamental right, and that every Nigerian is entitled to security and dignity of human person. To underscore the importance of this motion, we are aware that NIMASA and Nigerian Navy is hosting that. This happened a month ago, that NIMASA and Nigerian Navy hosted a global maritime security conference here in Abuja, where about 38 countries were gathered to discuss the challenges of maritime security in the Gulf of Guinea region and develop tailored solutions, as well as coordinate efforts at strengthening regional and international collaboration to extinguish maritime threats in the region, and believes, therefore, that the ongoing, that's a conference that was held, should not just be another talk show. Senate, therefore, accordingly resolves to: 1, urge NIMASA to quickly fast-track the implementation of the Deep Blue Sea Project for the protection of Nigeria's waters, as it would go a long way in arresting the menace of the pirates and the armed bandits. 2, urge the federal government of Nigeria to bring forward a bill on the Deep Blue Sea Project for quick passage into law that will integrate NIMASA, Nigerian Navy, and Nigerian Police. 3, urge the federal government of Nigeria through Navy to deploy more naval personnel on the Oran coastal area to check the activities of the pirates and bandits immediately. 5. 4. Urge the federal government of Nigeria through the Office of the Attorney General of the Federation to prosecute pirates and armed bandits in accordance with the Anti-Piracy Act to serve as deterrent. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I so move.
Very distinguished Ranking Senator George Thompson Sekibo, CON JP.
Thank you, Mr. Senior President, for addressing me officially. Mr. Senior President, my distinguished colleagues, I am Senator George Thompson Sekibo. I represent the Rivers East Electoral District. Mr. President, I rise to second this wonderful motion, and in seconding it, I will make a few comments. Mr. President, majority of our people in the territorial states of the country uses the Nigerian territorial waters and somehow move a little far to carry out their businesses. The level of robbery, banditry, and even piracy has become too alarming that individuals, cooperatives, and businessmen and women will gather their livelihood within the territorial waters and beyond are handicapped to do their businesses. That is why this motion is very important, that we have to work towards processes to curb the excesses of these people on the territorial waters. Mr. President, it will interest you to know that the Gulf of Guinea stretches about 60,000 kilometers, stretching from Senegal to Angola, covering over 20 countries. Although some of the countries that involve, including these 20 countries, are landlocked areas, but they also do their businesses through the coastal state that borders them within their boundaries. A brief glimpse of records shows this. In 2011, 966 seafarers' attack was recorded by the United Nations. 2013, 100 ships were hijacked, people taken away from the ships. 2016, 1,921. It rose to the clamors. And then in 2017, 1,726. And of course, we saw also the record that the motion mover of the motion gave to us, the area it affected our country. Because of these incidents, on records, more than $2 billion worth of goods and services have been wasted. And then insurance of goods and services have also hijacked to $818 million. That means that people are scared to go out in this area to do their businesses. Recently, fresh fish is becoming too difficult to get in the market. If you go to Oron, where that's like a fishing basin, if you go to somewhere in a car in the Rivers Nogoni area, where people bring fish from the territorial water to the rivers area, it's dry now, you don't see any fish. Why? When they go out for fishing, people attack them, take all their fishes, and go away with them. Sometimes they attack them, take the boats with the outboard engine, and then keep the people at the shore and take away their boats. The fishermen or the traders don't have even means of going back to their places. So you will see it becoming a major thing, especially the way it affects Nigeria. When there are attacks on the sea, on the route coming to the country, is globally noted. People will be scared to bring goods and services to the country. So we have to work hard to curb the excesses. Now, in making some recommendations, I will sincerely commend the Navy for their efforts on our territorial waters. It appears they are doing very well. But they have a difficulty. The difficulty they have are this. In the territorial waters, even recently, the presidency has given them 40 vessels. So we have new vessels to add to the ones we already have, which is good enough. But on the high seas, the 3 vessels that we have to use on the high seas have been grounded for some time, and they cannot be put into repairs. Even though we have discussed with the Committee on Appropriation, I believe it will be looked at. If we don't have facility, if we don't have ships to go on the high sea, more piracy activities will take place. Whatever we do, it will take place. So I think that we have to sincerely empower the Navy and then make them very useful to themselves. But for the internal waters, I think they are doing effectively very well. Mr. President, I agree with all the prayers, except prayer number 2, even though we'll come to it, that I think my colleague, the mover of the motion, should prepare a bill, and bring forward to the Senate so that we look at it appropriately, than asking the federal government to bring it forward, because it is our main function in this chamber. So I think she's capable and she can look at it properly. With these few comments, I second the motion. Thank you very much.
Is there anybody against the motion? We'll go to the prayers. Urge NIMASA to quickly fast-track the implementation of the Deep Blue Sea project for the protection of Nigeria's waters, as it would go a long way in arresting the menace of the pirates and armed bandits. Those in favor of prayer 1 say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Prayer 2. Urge the federal government of Nigeria to bring forward a bill on the Deep Blue Sea project for quick passage into law that will integrate NIMASA, Nigerian Navy, and Nigeria Police. Those in favor of prayer 2. Amendment J.T. Sekibo.
Mr. President, the major work of the Senate here is to propose bills. It's our work. So I think that she should step down this prayer, and then we take prayer 3. Once she can prepare a bill and come. I think it is not necessary for us to call on them to prepare a bill and send to us.
Let me find out from her if she is prepared to stand that prayer down. The Distinguished Senator Akwanya King.
I agree, Mr. President. I step down.
So the new prayer 2 will be prayer 3. Urge the federal government of Nigeria through Navy to deploy more naval personnel on the Oron coastal area to check the activities of the pirates and bandits immediately. Those in favor of prayer 2 say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. And the new prayer 3 will be prayer 4. Urge the federal government of Nigeria through the office of the Attorney General of the Federation to prosecute pirates and armed bandits in accordance with the Anti-Piracy Act to serve as deterrent. Those in favor of prayer 3 say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Leader of the Senate.
Thank you, Mr. President. My highly respected and distinguished colleagues, the 6th order of the day is a motion standing in the name of distinguished Senator Tolulope Akinremi Odebi on the need to revisit the suspension order placed on the supply of petroleum products to border towns by the Comptroller General of Nigeria Customs Service. Mr. President, you may wish to invite Senator Tolu Odebi to move the motion.
Senator Tolu Odebi.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, distinguished colleagues. My name is Senator Tolu Odebi, and I represent the people of Ogun West. And Mr. President, it will interest you to know that at least 3 of the local governments in my area out of 5 are along the border line. Mr. President, let me first of all commend
my distinguished colleagues for their contributions and support towards the government's policy to curb smuggling. I don't believe that any senator here would support such thing that is very detrimental to our economy. But having said that, Mr. President, I think one of the reasons I'm bringing this motion is that we have to be careful not to make pronouncements that unjustifiably punishes a whole group of people or a whole community or local governments for an act that they may not have been responsible for or for very few people are responsible for. Mr. President, my motion is on the need to revisit the suspension order placed on the supply of petroleum products to border towns by the Controller General of Nigerian Customs. Mr. President, you're aware of the remarkable progress made by the federal government in stopping the activities of smuggling since the closure of land borders in the country. Mr. President, you're further aware that while the country has made laudable progress in this regard, it appears there is no sustainable framework that has been put in place to ensure the proper coordination and implementation of this directive and its horrid impact on communities and residents living along the border. You will recall, Mr. President, only yesterday, on Thursday, a few days ago, Thursday, 7th of November, you recall that on Thursday, 7th of November, 2019, Nigerians woke up to another directive from the Comptroller General of the Nigerian Customs that no petroleum product shall be supplied to any filling station within 20 kilometers to the borders. Note that following a detailed investigation by the Punch newspaper just yesterday, Mr. President, on November 12th, the order has created a huge scarcity of petroleum products in the border towns of Ogun, Lagos, Adamawa, Katsina, and Sokoto State, particularly in communities like Ilashe, Ajegule, Idiroko, Agoshasha, among others in the Ipopia local government area of the state. Mr. President, it might interest you to know that even some hospitals cannot operate because obviously getting petrol now has become a challenge. Our businesses are closing down. People cannot go to work because they need to go 20 kilometers away for them to buy petrol to their motorcycles in order for them to be able to go about their respective duties. Mr. President, we further note that this directive is a knee-jerk approach to a modern-day solution, as it is obsolete when compared to the array of technological solutions that can be explored to rid the country of this menace. And what do I mean by that, Mr. President? In this day and age, if Dangote has over 2,000 trucks and they are all being tracked and they all have trackers on them, it wouldn't take us much, Mr. President, if we insist that all our articulated petroleum tankers must have trackers that is manned by federal road safety to ensure that these petroleum products are not being taken out of the country, Mr. President. But to just make a blanket decision that the whole community, 20 kilometers away, you cannot have access to petroleum product, I think it's a very unfortunate pronouncement. Mr. President, concerned that as a result of this, many filling stations within 20 kilometers in Ipokia have been shut down forcefully by the federal government task force on border closure, brutalizing and illegally harassing residents in the process, thereby violating their rights to personal dignity as enshrined in Section 341 of the 1999 Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Further concerned that as a direct import of this order, petrol is now being sold as high as 600 naira per litre, an astronomical rise for this normal price of 145. Bear in mind that a lot of these communities are far away from the center of cities, and in most cases, in this community, government rarely touches some of these border town communities. The people are mostly poor people, living in doing farming, and there's really no any sustainable sort of income for a lot of these people. It was only yesterday or 2 days ago, the telecoms are even saying that there are going to be disruptions along the border area now because of getting fuel to a lot of their substations, and this is going to create additional hardship for these people. Aware that there are a number of proven technological innovations that can be explored to check and manage and curtail the acts without resorting to manual blanket approaches as it is being practiced at the moment. Worried that if this situation is not properly addressed as soon as possible, it will further compound an already bad situation for people living along the border created by the prolonged border closure and thus exerting more hardship on the people. Further worried that if we are going to have an order of this nature, there must be some kind of palliative measure. If you're going to have a blanket approach that 20 kilometers from the border, tankers cannot go, then you must at least find, even with 5 petrol stations that can be selling fuel so that peace people can still go about their daily life and run their businesses. But to say that 20 kilometers, nobody can sell, no petrol tankers can sell petrol or take petrol to all the border towns, what do you expect the people to do? They have to drive, a pregnant woman or somebody at night needs to go to a hospital, there's no petrol, they have to go 20 kilometers away to buy petrol, and before they come back, these are the things we have to look at when we are making pronouncements of this nature, Mr. President. Mr. President, further worry that if necessary palliative measures are not put in place, the problem that will result from the ban will most certainly affect every aspect of businesses, transactions, as well as health centers are already being grounded by the relative scarcity of petrol products occasioned by this suspension. Alarmed by the negative consequences the prolonged suspension could bring to bear on the lives of our already suffering people. Mr. President, accordingly, I ask this august body to resolve to call on the Controller General of Nigerian Customs to urgently explore the use of modern technology devices in tracking some of these articulated trucks, management and scheduling of petroleum trucks that undertake businesses along the border. Mr. President, you know, a while ago we even talked about some of these trucks that are causing calamities along. If one of the things that I was just thinking about that we can also do is that if we see that even all these articulated trucks must be registered, must be re-registered by the road safety people, it allows them to even check a lot of the condition of a lot of these trucks and to ensure that all of them must have tracking devices to be able to know where their petroleum products are being taken to. Initiate a comprehensive audit of all petroleum stations along the border and suppliers along the border communities in a bid to closely monitor their movement by mandating that each moving truck must have a tracking data that is monitored by the Nigerian Customs Service in a wholesale manner. Mandate that the Senate Committee on Customs to summon the Controller General of the Nigerian Customs with a view of working out a viable economic framework policy that could further mitigate the sufferings of the people along the border areas. Ensure that a steady supply of petroleum products through identified suppliers and registered filling stations across the border towns and communities as a temporary palliative measure. That must be a palliative measure. It can't just be blanket. Initiate a holistic policy approach with the same vigor on the nation's waterways. It might interest you to know that as much as we are closing the border, now our waterways are still quite open. People are now diverting to the waterways along Badagry to be bringing all kinds of produce into the country. We are not doing a total ban. We're not managing our waterways, and that's still an area that I still have to be looked to. So these are my submissions, Mr. President, and I hope this august body will take a look at it and approve. Thank you, Mr.
Senator Francis Adenigba, Father Osi.
Thank you, Mr. President. My distinguished colleagues, my name still remains Francis Adenigba Fadansi, representing the good people of Osun East. Well, the consequences of border closure is coming to reality. It is now staring at our faces that the best solution to headache is not the cutting of the head. The best solution to Nigerian economic problems, particularly smuggling, is not total border closure. I have mentioned here 2 times, 1983, this same government then made total closure to all the borders because of changing of currency column. It was so effective within 7 days. Everything was at standstill. Now, the borders are closed land borders are closed, but the water borders are not closed. The traffic on water, particularly with our goods, is more heavier on water than, because water movement is encouraged by the management, particularly the security agents. They live on it. But because all of us are staying, we are living on land, our eyes are not up there. What we are doing here is as if we are legislating on land. The other time my sister brought a motion on piracy. There's nothing on piracy other than robbery. It's the same thing, smuggling and everything on water. What is happening here, if care is not taken, we will be having problems. When Baba Obasanjo was there, the patrol bases, they were 40 kilometers to the borders. Because according to his best management policy of border, we realized that almost half of Nigerians are in the Republic of Benin. Almost half, 1/3 of Nigerians are in the Republic of Cameroon, particularly the southern Cameroon. The same thing with Niger. These are brothers and sisters. If we have good border management policy, we should have resolved all these things for the past 20 years. If you open the border tomorrow, or you open it 20 years' time without any good policy the way China made, we are still going to have escalated border smuggling across the border. The petrol products we are talking about, there's always a way we can do it. There are no tankers that are moving across the borders again. I can say it with authority. What we are talking, when the NNPC was talking that the smuggling of fuel has reduced, I laughed. The one they are taking on the IC, escorted by our security agent to South Africa, they don't talk about it. In thousands, there's even a ship there now that is on this Gulf of Guinea. Is taking 120,000 metric tons of crude oil to South Africa, escorted by our security agents. There's nothing we are talking about that one. But our brothers and sisters who are taking one jerry can to go and feed their family is the smuggling. Unless the Senate faces this particular problem and enact a good law that we are not going to get out of it. January is coming. The rate of crime is coming up. So all the hospitals along these lines, we have more than almost 2,000 villages along this line, from Adamawa down to Jiroko, down to Gashua and so on. Many of us will not be able to
limit your examples. There are too many.
Be able to call the stakeholders and talk about this border management. If we don't do it, we are going to have problems. Now, the IMF came out last week that despite the border closure, the Republic of Benin's economy is growing stronger. I think everybody read about it. But the rice growers we are trying to assist, are they really growing rice enough? They are not. There must be no preparation for us. When we are now self-sufficient, we have made some motion on this cotton and small-scale industries on this thing too.
You can round up now.
We are going to have problems. We must call the stakeholders, ask why. Let us know by this time of last year what are the economic benefits of border opening. Now that the border has been closed, what is the economic benefit to the nation? What is the security situation in this country now? Christmas is coming. They should not carry fuel 20 kilometers. Christmas is coming. They should not do this.
You can round up.
India. Mr. President, let us take a look at these laws that are being passed without our backing.
Thank you very much.
Well, distinguished colleagues will go to the press, but before then, maybe we take a 1 minute contribution from Senator Ibrahim.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency. Distinguished colleagues. This is an area that I think I should contribute more. Because, number one, I came from a border town. And my town is not more than 20 kilometers away from the border. And if you look at Gada in my own district, in my own senatorial district, it's not more than 10 kilometers away. Then if you look at Ilela also, we have the same problem. If you look at Isa, we have the same problem. If you look at Kamba in Kebbi State, the same problem. Elo, Dandi, and so on. All we have this kind of problem. And if you look at even Daura itself, in Kasina, Daura where the president came from, is only about 10 kilometers away from the border. So, Jibia. So I think if we say we are going to give this kind of thing, we are going to accept this law, then it's going to be a problem. Therefore, I think we should suspend this law for now so that people cannot be disfranchised. If you look at the constitutional provision, chapter 2, chapter 3, chapter 4, all talks about the human dignity, all talks about the non-discriminatory criteria, and therefore why should we be disfranchised? We shouldn't do that. So I think there is need to look at this issue and revisit it and suspend that order. Thank you, Your Excellency.
Thank you very much. Distinguished colleagues, we'll go to the prayers now. Prayer 1. Call on the Controller General of Nigerian Customs Service to urgently explore the use of modern technological devices in the tracking, management, and scheduling of petroleum trucks that undertake business along the border towns. Those in favor of prayer 1 say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Prayer 2. Initiate a comprehensive audit of all petroleum stations and suppliers across the border communities in a bid to closely monitor their movement by mandating each moving truck to have a tracking device that is monitored by the Nigeria Customs Service in a wholesome manner. Those in favor of this prayer say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Prayer 3. Mandate the Senate Committee on Customs to summon the Controller General of the Nigerian Customs Service with a view of working out a viable economic framework policy that could further mitigate the sufferings of people and communities across the border areas. Those in favor of this prayer say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Prayer 4. Ensure a steady supply of petroleum products through the identified suppliers and registered filling stations across all the border towns and communities as a temporary palliative measure. Those in support of prayer 4 say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. And prayer 5. Initiate a holistic policy approach with the same vigor on nation's waterways. Those in favor of prayer 5 say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Thank you very much, distinguished colleagues. The Senator Francis Adeniba, Father Unsa, you know you are the Vice Chairman of the Committee on Customs, and you are very vastly experienced because you always became a Controller General of Customs at one point during your career. I think your experience and your position should be utilized to our advantage. We should have an engagement, just like one of the prayers said, with the custom authorities in the country, and we should look for what is in the best interest of our people. Distinguished colleagues, with this, we have exhausted the order paper for today. Leader of the Senate.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Okay, additional prayer? Okay, additional prayer.
My President, distinguished colleagues, my name is Sento Shiako Abo. I represent people of Adamawa North. We are talking here about closure of border and non-supply of petroleum products 20 kilometers to the border. My additional prayer is that this Senate should mandate the government to build 5 new refineries before 2023. That's my additional prayer. So that we will not talk about closing the border again because of people fearing petrol out. We will not be talking about
Okay, let me get a seconder. Any seconder, please. This is still bath. Please. Senator Abo. Senator Abo, oh, okay. It's okay. No, I'm not asking you to talk. Senator Francis, Father Unsi, secondary something.
Mr. President, my name is Father Ade Father Unsi, Osun State. I rise to support additional amendment made by Senator Abo. Additional prayers.
Okay, I will put the question. Those in favor of the additional prayer by Senator Ishaku Elisha Abo and seconded by Senator Francis Adenigba, Father Unsi, say aye. Those against say nay. The nays have it. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, my highly respected and distinguished colleagues, having exhausted all the items on the order paper, I hereby move that the Senate do adjourn to Thursday, 14th November 2019 at 10 a.m. prompt. I so move, Mr. President.
Minority Leader.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I rise to second the motion as moved.
Well, distinguished colleagues, before I put the question, I have one or two announcements to make. A letter from very distinguished Senator Sandy Ojang Ono, PhD, Cross River Central Senatorial District. The President of the Senate, National Assembly, Abuja, my dear President, promotion to full professor. I left the services of the University of Calabar as Associate Professor to contest elections to the Senate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. However, I had before final disengagement qualified to submit my papers for evaluation as full professor, and I did so accordingly. I'm glad to announce to you, Mr. President and distinguished colleagues, that the Senate of the University of Calabar on Thursday, October 13th, formally announced my promotion to the rank of Professor of History. At the personal level, I'm overjoyed as I find this elevation a fitting acknowledgement and tribute to decades of my scholarly contributions in my dedicated area of scholarship. This letter, therefore, most humbly seeks to invite distinguished colleagues to share in my joy as a mark of our common friendship in the 9th Senate that is setting the unprecedented pace of constructive collaboration in the task of building a more united, greater and prosperous Nigeria. Please do accept the assurances of my profound regards. Signed, Senator, Distinguished Professor Sandy Ojang Ono. Congratulations, Prof. This is an additional qualification not only for you but for this Senate, and we are very, very glad that you have been able to make it. Some of us fell by the wayside. We couldn't become professors before we left the universities. Congratulations once again. Another announcement, Northern Senators Forum. This is to inform all Northern Senators that the Area Consultative Forum, ACF, will be paying a courtesy visit on the President of the Senate as follows. Date today, 13th November 2019. Time, 2:30 p.m. prompt. Venue, President of the Senate Conference Room, 3rd floor, New Senate Building, Room 301. All Northern Senators are invited to attend, please. Signed, Distinguished Senator Aliyu Magataka Dawamako, Chairman, Northern Senators Forum. Thank you very much, distinguished colleagues. With this, I will put the question. Those in favor of the motion that this Senate do adjourn till tomorrow, Thursday, the 14th day of November 2019 at 10 a.m. from say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. The Senate is hereby adjourned till tomorrow, Thursday, 14th day of November 2019 at 10 a.m. prompt.